Right now at 4, SWAT teams barricade a home in the town of Concord. What state police say led to the call and how it ended. And a done deal. The GOP tax bill passes yet again. We explained how it will affect your wallet based on your income.
And there still are a few snowflakes flying outside right now. Coming up, I'll let you know if they'll impact the evening commute and when they'll finally dissipate.
From the station with the most local news, this is News 4 at 4.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy Kern. First at 4, Buffalo police say an 18-year-old man was killed and 4 others hurt in a serious car crash in the city. Police say it happened around 9:30 last night in the 200 block of French Street. They think the 18-year-old may have been driving fast when he went through a stop sign and hit another car. The driver then hit several trees before stopping. He later died at the hospital. We are working to find out his name this afternoon. We also know 4 passengers were taken to the hospital but are expected to be okay. The driver of the other car was not hurt. The crash is under investigation. Buffalo police are also investigating a shooting that left a 46-year-old Buffalo man in critical condition. It happened at about 10:15 last night on the first block of Castle Place. The man is still in the hospital. If you have any information, call police at 847-2255. Authorities say an incident ended peacefully at a home in Concord after a woman barricaded herself inside a home this morning. They say law enforcement's quick actions helped end the situation. News 4's Asher Christopheros is in Concord to explain.
Dozens of state police officers, members of the Erie County Sheriff's Office, and SWAT team surrounded this home behind me on Brown Hill Road in Concord for nearly 2 hours after a call came in at about 8 o'clock this morning about a barricaded subject inside.
The individual has been taken out of the residence peacefully without incident. No area residents were ever at risk in this incident.
A scary situation had a happy ending this morning when a crisis negotiator was able to get a female barricaded inside this Concord residence to come out peacefully.
And with the swift actions with New York State Police and the Sheriff's Office establishing a fast perimeter and having tactical assets on scene, that was our primary goal, was to protect the residents of the area.
State police say there were no injuries, and at this point, they do not know if the female was armed. They are still in the preliminary stages of the investigation.
The husband, the male subject, and his 10-year-old son fled the residence in a vehicle, and we subsequently have interviewed them or are in the process of interviewing them right now.
Authorities say they are working to determine whether this was a domestic incident or if other factors played a role.
We're unaware of that at this point, unaware whether or not there was a weapon discharged at this point, but those are things we'll get to the bottom of as we proceed.
At this point, state police are still looking into whether the female in custody will be facing charges. In Concord, Angela Christopheros, News 4.
A scam warning for people in Chautauqua County. The Sheriff's Office is warning about a holiday phone scam. They say it's a grandparent scam. That's when someone calls pretending to be a grandchild needing money in an emergency situation. Scammers say things like they've been arrested or been in an accident and need your help. Or they'll pretend to be a police officer or judge demanding money sent through an iTunes gift card. The Sheriff's Office says to hang up immediately if you get a similar call. And turning now to your 4-1 forecast, it's a quiet day as we take a live look over downtown Buffalo. Not too much going on there right now, but that will change. Forward meteorologist Kaylee Wentz is timing out those changes. Kaylee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Christy, and to all of you at home. It certainly is going to be turning cooler once again as we head into the overnight tonight. Tomorrow is going to be another brutally cold day, and that's when we start to see some significant snow build back into the region. For tonight, however, just a little bit cloudy out there, and Christy said it, quiet but cold. You'll notice on the Niagara Falls camera the kind of gray, gloomy conditions sticking around at this point, and will continue to do so through the overnight. Now here's a look at the snowflakes that remain across all of western New York. It's pretty isolated. If you head up towards Orleans County, you'll notice areas like Holly still seeing some light snowflakes. Heading further south, across Wyoming County, everywhere from Wales over to Warsaw, down towards Pike, seeing some light snow. But again, none of this will really impact the evening commute in just about an hour or so because it's so light in nature and not really accumulating on the ground. Here's a look at temperatures, still at about 32 in Buffalo, 33 up in the Falls, but we are starting to see some 20s make their way into the area south of the city of Buffalo. And as we get into the later portions of tonight, we'll see those numbers turn into into teens and low 20s. If we compare this to yesterday at this time, we're already about 10 to 15 degrees cooler. So you know what these numbers will look like once we drop down into the teens overnight tonight. Now, coming up in my full forecast, we've got another cold one ahead for tomorrow, like I mentioned, but another blast of warmer heads our way on Friday. So it's really a roller coaster ride, and we'll tell you why coming up in just a few minutes.
Yeas are 224 and the nays are 201. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The House has once again passed a $1.5 trillion tax bill. A revote was called because the bill was slightly changed before the Senate passed it last night along party lines. Tax analysts say there will be cuts across every income tax bracket. On average, taxpayers will save about $1,600. Democrats oppose the bill because they say the majority of relief goes to the very wealthy and corporations. Coming up in the next half hour, News 4's Luke Marty speaks with the financial experts on how it will affect you. New details on the Amtrak train derailment in Washington state. Investigators say the engineer did not apply the emergency brake when the train started to derail. 3 people were killed and dozens more were hurt. Crews are still removing derailed cars today. Kenneth Craig has the very latest.
Crews removed the locomotive from Monday's deadly train derailment in Washington state. Other train cars were removed from the interstate yesterday, but the locomotive was too heavy for the flatbed truck brought in to haul it away.
That locomotive weighed 270,000 pounds. It required a special lowboy trailer, which also requires 2 tractors to actually move that, one in the front and one in the back, so it's quite an ordeal.
The train's event data recorder shows the train was traveling at 80 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone when it went off the tracks. Federal investigators say it appears the engineer did not manually slow the train down as it approached the curve.
The emergency brake was automatically activated when the accident was occurring, rather than being initiated by the engineer.
The National Transportation Safety Board is looking into whether the engineer didn't sense the danger because he was distracted. There were 2 people in the lead locomotive cab, the engineer and a conductor in training.
Both men were injured in the crash. Investigators are working to interview crew members as soon as doctors say it's okay to do so.
New photos show the damage from inside the passenger compartment. The NTSB says the video recording system from the inward and outward facing cameras on the train was damaged in the crash. The equipment is now headed to the agency's lab for analysis. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, DuPont, Washington.
While the investigation continues in Washington, the fight to reinstate criminal charges against the engineer in another deadly derailment in Philadelphia will carry over into next year. 8 people were killed and more than 200 were hurt. A judge threw out charges of involuntary manslaughter and other charges against the engineer in September. A different judge told prosecutors today she'll review the engineer's case and sets a hearing for February. This crash also involves speed. Next to News 4, it's being called a medical miracle. Why a mother and a baby are a lot closer in age than you think.
Completely against the law.
You'd be a criminal.
I would be a complete criminal.
For selling cake pops.
Yeah.
And you could call this woman a pop cake criminal. Why her zip code and her love for baking could lead to criminal charges.